Hi, my name is Lindsay Buck from Coravin, and I am talking with Miss Theodora R, owner of Theopolis Vineyards, whose label we now carry on the wine shop. Welcome, Theodora.
Thank you for having me, Lindsay. I'm so pleased to be here.
Absolutely. So you have a really interesting story. Can you tell us how you came to run and own a winery?
Well, as a kid growing up in Dallas, Texas, I never dreamed I would have my own winery, but it kind of goes back to Texas. When I was a kid, I wanted to ride horses. And back in the 70s, little girls did not throw their legs up on a horse. And I would cry because all of my boy cousins would get to ride. And my dad, who was the school principal, said, "Darling, don't worry, one day I will buy you your own horse." And he did. He bought his first 10 acres of land outside of Dallas. He bought me a horse, and I learned to drive on a tractor at the age of 8. And
Wow.
so, how does that relate to wine? Well, when I moved to California in the 80s, I became a associate at Littler Mendelsohn. And we didn't have faxes and emails and all of the electronic means of getting papers and reviewing them and sharing it. So if you were working on a brief for a partner who happened to be in Napa or Sonoma at their weekend home, you got in your car and you drove the brief to their home. Well, Barbara Diodoni and Pierre, her husband, who was a physicist, had a beautiful vineyard in Hillsburg, California. And so I would take the briefs, they would invite me for dinner and introduce me to wine. And I kept saying, "No, give me some Jack Daniels," because I didn't drink wine. And the reason I didn't drink wine is because back in Texas in the South, muscadine grapes grow wild. And my dad used to take muscadine grapes and make home brew. And I will tell you, if you've ever tasted muscadine wine, you wouldn't drink wine. So when she would offer me wine, I didn't drink it because that's what I
So
thought
funny.
wine was. And she asked me why I didn't want to try it. And I told her the story. She said, "That's not wine. We make fine wine." So I was
Wow.
introduced to fine wine in the 80s. While there, her husband, Pierre, would let me go out in the vineyard and ride his tractor. Well, this kid grew up in Texas riding a tractor. Here I'm in California getting to ride a tractor through the vineyards. I was like, wow, I can combine my love for the outdoors, for being on a
Yeah.
tractor, and have a vineyard. So that's when I developed the dream of owning a vineyard back in the 80s. Well, things are not cheap in California. So it wasn't until 2001 that I was able to take money out of my home and buy 20 acres of land, not in Napa or Sonoma, but in Mendocino County in the Yorkville Highlands of Anderson Valley. So in 2003, I planted my Petite vineyard. In 2006, I had my first harvest, and I was content to just be a grape farmer on my tractor, pruning, doing all of the things that I love about farming. And I sold my grapes for 2006 to 2012. The first harvest I sold to a guy by the name of Mike Officer at Carlisle. He's a cult winemaker. And Robert Parker gave the wine made for my grapes a 96. That was my first harvest. Fast
Wow.
forward to
Wow.
2012. I unfortunately had to pick in the rain because Mother Nature waits for no one. I picked at 22 bricks, and my contract required 24 bricks. I delivered 8-ton grapes to the new buyer. I had a new buyer other than Carlisle at this time. And he rejected the grapes because they didn't meet the contractual requirement. A lawyer got screwed by a contract. I write my contracts now because I still sell my grapes. But basically, I had 8 tons with no home. I found a place to get them crushed. And then I bartered because I had no money because I lost my shirt in real estate during the Great Recession. I got bartered to get the grapes made, the wine made from my grapes by giving half of the grapes to the winemaker so he could sell it to make his money from making my wine. And that wine, my 2012 vintage of Petite, won gold at Sunset Magazine. Every aspect of my life in wine has been a story. I never
Yeah.
planned to bottle rosé of Petite, but in
Yeah.
2014, I had a new buyer and we picked together in 2013. I had the
Yeah.
nerve to go on a wine immersion cruise in Europe, came back, he picked all of the ripest grapes. the grapes that were left were not ripe enough to make a Petite, so I made a rosé of Petite, and that won double gold at San Francisco Chronicle competition.
Is killer. We're going to get to the wines. We'll talk more about Theodora, or Theo-patra is your alter ego, right?
Well, in the wine business, I'm known as Theo-patra, queen of the vineyards.
Right, which is amazing, which I love. So you are also a lawyer. How has your career in law informed how you run the wine business?
Well, both are businesses. And my law firm mentor taught me that you have to be responsive. You need to get back to your clients or prospects within 24 hours. I do the same thing in the wine business, which apparently makes me very unique. And I approach the wine business very much like I approach the legal business, and client responsiveness, customer satisfaction is what I try to do. And quality is the key. My father, who left home at the age of 14 because his father was a sharecropper and he wanted a better life for himself, taught me no matter what you do, be the best at it. If it's a garbage person, if you are a nurse, a doctor, a lawyer, a winemaker, whatever it is, be the best at what you do. And so I've always prided myself on being an excellent lawyer. And so far, we've been very good at making quality wines.
I would say so. I'm very excited about the wine. I tasted them for the first time this morning, to be honest.
Oh, really?
They are killer.
I hope you used your Coravin to.
Oh, I did.
Okay, very well.
Yes. I did use the Coravin systems.
And my question to you, you're supposed to be asking the question, does the system also do a little decanting as well?
There is a decanter accessory that you can add onto the Pivot and the Timeless models. So yes, good question.
Yeah, well, that's something that I would definitely want you to do with that 2018 Petite. We'll get to that moment, but I love your products. I use your Coravin product for actually doing sampling. It's a way to keep the wine fresh and intact without opening a whole bottle.
That's what we love to hear. Now that you've been in the business for some time, what surprised you most about the wine world?
Well, as a young associate, going and seeing the lifestyle of Hillsburg and everyone sitting outside having an alfresco meal with wine, it looked glamorous. What I've learned is it's everything but glamorous. It is a lot of work. Growing grapes, the 4 seasons of growing grapes. I took courses at Davis so that I could learn about the 4 seasons of growing grapes. Then when I was forced to become a winery, I took a course at Davis about running and managing a small vineyard and winery. And so it is a lot of work. Not only growing the grapes, harvest is a lot of work. Then making the wine, barrel selection, SO2ing, actually to determine which barrels are going to go into to the vat to actually make the wine. Then once it gets in the bottle, selling the product. Right. It ain't easy. Okay. And that's the full cycle. And I'm involved in this business from planting the grapes, tore my rotator cuff, rototilling on the hillside to prepare the land. I then am the only salesperson because Theopolis Vineyards, people think it's much larger than it is, but it's myself and my wine daughter, who I am just delightful, Ashante Brown, who is just critical to our operations. It's just the 2 of us. Well, it shows that you punch above your weight, I would say. I know I messaged you the night I saw it, but it's so cool that on the new NBC show Grand Cru, very prominently positioned behind the bar where they hang out every episode is a Theopolis poster. It is so cool because they reached out to me about 2 years ago when they were working on the pilot and asked for authorization. You know, I'm a lawyer, so you have to sign all these papers saying that they can use your marketing and brand materials. I had no clue that it would be such a successful show. And that my logo would be in there every week. And then apparently last week, they actually recommended my Pinot Noir to a customer at the bar. You didn't pay for that product placement. No, I did not pay for that, honey. We don't have a budget. to pay for product placement.
That's beautiful thing. Without further ado, let's get into the wines. First, I have the rosé of Petite Sirah.
It is a delightfully dry rosé. As I tell people,
super dry.
It is not your wimpy grandmother's rosé. If you like a full-bodied wine, this is the rosé for you. We call this summer red because it drinks like a red wine, but it has all of the refreshing qualities of a rosé. It has a lot of bright acidities, wild berries, fresh apples, fresh watermelon, chamomile, strawberry. I mean, it is to me one of the most unique wines made today. In fact, I got a nod in the LA Times back in 2004, and they said, what fool will take the darkest, inkiest red grape and make a rosé? Well, that would be this fool. And as a result, it is a brilliant ruby color, not pink.
It is its own animal. I actually wrote on my tasting notes, rich in flavor, long finish, my favorite rosé I've had in a long time. Like very, very, very good. For a rosé, it is full bodied, it is very rich, and it is bone dry, and it is super unique and so much flavor. I absolutely love this rosé. Love it.
And I always tell people, if you like traditional rosé, I'm not going to let you try mine because
no, it's not a Provence rosé.
Yes, it's not a Provence rosé.
No.
And this particular one was direct to press. It was fermented in the tank, and then we aged it in neutral French oak for 4 months. So it has that Petite Sirah flavor. I love it. I drink it when I'm a Texan, so I love grilling. I grill a lot of burgers, and this is my go-to rosé. And it also goes very well with ceviche and summer salads and vegetarian fare, crab cakes. I mean, it is one of the most versatile rosés I think you will ever put your lips around.
I 100% agree. I wrote on my notes here, with a flaky like a spanakopita or something, would be really good. It would stand up to salmon really well too. Fantastic.
Oh, I see you're gonna go to my next. There's a story with everything.
Yeah, okay? this is your namesake too. It's your Cuvée.
Yes, this is Theopatra's Cuvée Cerise. And I have to tell you the story. There's an organization called Urban Connoisseurs who is planning on doing a documentary on Black winemakers. 4 of the people that will be featured came together to do a blending party, about 5 years ago. And we did a Rhone blend, okay? And I had so much fun. I took my Petite, which was a very small portion, like 10 to 15% of the Rhone blend that we put together because we were making it for the average wine drinker. And I said, God, I have Petite, my neighbor has Syrah. If I can get my hands on some Grenache or Mourvedre, then I could make a Rhone blend. Well, 2019, we had an abundance of fruit. And I'm also frugal. And so when you have an abundance of fruit, that means you can buy fruit for less money than otherwise. And so in 2019, I was able to buy Syrah and Mourvedre. I wasn't able to buy a Grenache. So as you know, GSM is the traditional Rhone blend, but I don't do anything normal. So my Rhone blend is PMS, Petite, Mourvedre, and Syrah.
Didn't even occur to me.
And it is 33% Petite, 33% Syrah, and 34% Mourvedre. And so I always tell the men, if your wife is giving you PMS problems, give her this Cuvée Cerise. And if you're a woman who are having PMSing, this will take care of it. So
real nod to the sisterhood.
So this is my first blend because all of my other wines, 100% Petite, 100% Pinot, 100% Symphony, and obviously the rosé is 100% Petite. But this is the first blend, and this is what I plan to grow our business with, because I only have so much Petite, but I can actually source Syrah and Mourvedre and Grenache, which the next one will have a little Grenache in it. So this is a very complex cuvee. And people ask me the question like, well, what does cuvee mean? And I'm saying it just is a French word for mix, for blend. And they said, well, how did you come up with the name Cuvée Cerise? I said, red blend. I'm a country girl from Texas, nothing fancy.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. And so this one, I just think it's very delightful. Right now, it is one of my favorite. That if I were going to pull a bottle of my wine and drink it off the shelf, because the Petite, you really got to let aerate and do all that. But this one, you can open it up and the flavors, you got cranberry, plum, okay, you got a little blueberry jam and sweet vanilla. I mean, a little baking spice. This is a glass that is beautiful in the winter. It's warm and it's comforting, and one of my favorites.
It's delightful. I get baked fruit, like baked cherry fruit, definitely has ageability to it. You could hold this wine for a few years if you wanted to, but right out of the gate, it's super explosive in terms of the flavor. I absolutely love it.
And do you pick up a little spice too?
Baking, well, actually on the nose, I got like baking spice.
Okay.
More the bouquet. But yeah, on the palate too, I definitely got the spice. I definitely got the blueberry, but soft tannins, tasted like a Rhone wine, honestly.
Well, that's the goal. Was it was supposed to be a Rhone blend, but I had to give it Theopatra's secret ingredient.
which is perfect. It's absolutely delightful. And then let's taste the flagship, I should say, right? The Petite.
Well,
Sirah.
I call it Big Daddy.
This is a big wine. This is a really big wine.
People who love Cabernet, I tell them, if you like a big, full-bodied, robust Cabernet, try my Petite Sirah. And this Petite Sirah, I have to do a little bragging. I don't know if you know, but this actual Petite Sirah was ranked number 16 in the Wine Enthusiast top 100 seller selections for 2021. So if you Google Theopolis Vineyards 2018 Petite Sirah, it got 96 points.
Wow.
And was featured in the top 100 seller selections and the top 20 seller selections for California wine. As a little country girl from Texas, I am very pleased at the products that we are producing and the recognition we are receiving.
That's awesome.
Yes, this is my flagship wine. I grow this at Theopolis Vineyards. It's 100% Petite. We fermented it in open top stainless tanks first. Then we punched it down manually. When people say, well, why is some wine so much more expensive than other wines? Because we handpick and then we punch down manually. I aged this in only 30% new oak because I do not want the oak to overcome the flavors, and then 70% neutral oak for about 20 months, and it's bottled unfined and unfiltered. I am as natural as we can come, but I don't believe in labels, so I don't call it natural wine or organic, but it is pretty natural. Nothing came between the fruit and putting it in the bottle except for the barrel. And this has a lot of wonderful flavors. What about vanilla and Coca-Cola and blackberry jam? And I mean, and the tannins are very velvety, I think.
Yes, I would say absolutely. It is inky, very concentrated. This would easily convert somebody to become a Petite Sirah drinker because it's an underappreciated grape, right? And it's not widely planted anywhere, really. This is just tremendous. It's super concentrated. It's a big wine. It's like a comfort wine. It's kind of like warms you up on the inside, right?
Absolutely. But I hope you can get some bright fruit too.
Oh,
because one of the things that I like to say that is my signature is that I want the fruit to speak for the wine. Pinot Noir, I bottle that, but I try to do mine a little different than your traditional forest floor minerality.
Right.
I mean, I just say that's another way of saying dirt in your glass. Whereas I personally want my fruit to speak volumes.
It shows that so much care is taken in the production of these wines. This is what makes this industry so fun, is when you discover these like new wines and you have them to recommend. They're at very reasonable price points too. California in general is expensive and the wines just keep getting more expensive, but these are super reasonably priced. You can find them on the wine shop. Theodora, I wish you continued success. I'm excited to keep drinking your wines. At least one or two of these will become a house wine for me, I know. So thank you so much.